welcome to another episode of the NFL Network. And yeah, I know it's been a couple of weeks since I've been doing this, but don't blame me. Blame Mother Nature and blame my sickness that I've had the last week or so. I would have loved to have previewed last week's games because, man, Week 11 was pretty damn awesome. It was an amazing weekend of NFL action. Really great rivalry games, a lot of great games that came down to the wire. Just a number of great games I wish I could have talked about, but sadly, my illness decided to completely screw up all my plans, so that's why there was no show last week. So that's why there was no show last week. But I'm back this week, and this week's not quite as good as last week's, but we have some pretty good games overall to talk about. We'll delve into my predictions as we go along here, but of course we start the show off as we usually do with my Reviewing Network NFL Power Rankings for the week, and you see the list right there in particular. And as usual, I run down my personal top 5 overall. So number 5 on here, I have the Cincinnati Bengals, who, yes, they lost on Sunday night against the Los Angeles Chargers. Yes, they did. So here's what you're probably thinking to yourself: why do I have the Los Angeles Chargers, who are now 7-3, all the way down at the bottom of the list here, and the Cincinnati Bengals are so high up on this list? Well, I put the Cincinnati Bengals at 5 because honestly, they were the better team that played on Sunday night because of what they were able to do to come back from that 27-6 halftime lead that the Chargers had. And the Chargers almost blew that game away. And just Cincinnati knew that, because basically this was their season at this point for Cincinnati. I mean, they could still probably make the playoffs, but not the division probably. But they need to basically win out at this point to get to 10-7. They need to win the next 6 games, but unfortunately, the Cincinnati Bengals, I mean, they really did try. You can tell that they're wasting the best of Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase right now, because of course Ja'Marr Chase is still doesn't have a new contract for next year. Meanwhile, Joe Burrow has the future ahead of him. The defense, however, really let them down in this game in particular, and the reason why I have the Chargers still down at the bottom is because they blew that 27-6 lead. And yes, I know they won the game, but you got Jim Harbaugh to not do the same thing that you did with Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley blew a lot of leads when he was the Chargers head coach. You brought Jim Harbaugh in, so you didn't have to do that. And unfortunately, the Chargers went back to the ghost of Chargers past, and that's why they're at the bottom of the rankings here. But I put Cincinnati there because Cincinnati did their best to come back in that game. They almost would have won it too, and of course they didn't. But unfortunately, I put them at number 5 on the list. Number 4, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers, which was a game that, when I watched it, I honestly could say that it was not the best game overall. I mean, but then again, that's usually what you get when you play the Ravens and the Steelers. It's not going to be a big offensive shootout. It's going to be mostly a defensive struggle between the two teams. And the Ravens' defense is not that great overall, but give them this: they kept the Steelers to field goals, 6 of them to be exact. And who would have guessed that the Steelers would have 2 games this season where field goals were the reason why they won? There was no touchdown scored, and even Russell Wilson didn't have the best day overall. But when they did the best. They did everything they needed to do. Everybody played their part in that game for the Steelers, and this was also something from last week too, when they beat the Washington Commanders. Like they're getting these wins overall here, and unlike the Kansas City Chiefs, who were 9-0, and I didn't put them in the list for the longest time, the top 5 for the longest time, because they were really strong, because they were that great wins, and we expect a whole lot more from Kansas City than we do with Pittsburgh. The Steelers have found a way to keep themselves on what do I want to say here? Keep it on a even playing level. Like, they've been playing very well over the last couple of weeks, and especially for this hell run that they're now in full control of right now, full force on right now, because they go into Washington, they beat the Commanders, and then they have the Ravens at home, and they do a pretty good job of beating them, even though Ravens came pretty close. But for some reason, John Harbaugh and the Ravens, and Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, I don't understand why they always have struggles coming into Pittsburgh. Also, why do you not have Derrick Henry on your 2-point conversion? There's so many bad things we can talk about with the Baltimore Ravens, but we'll save that for the predictions, because I'll delve into more of the Steelers and Ravens in their games coming up a little bit later on. But I have the Steelers at number 4 on the list. Number 3 are the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles, kind of like the Pittsburgh Steelers, they haven't been perfect all the way through this season, but when they've won games, they've won them pretty convincingly, especially in the last couple of weeks. You know, they played Washington very well. They had a very good game against Washington, and even though I'll be honest, the Eagles won that game because Washington kind of collapsed in the fourth quarter. I mean, Washington had that game sewed up, and all they would have had to do, you know, they could have just kicked the field goal and go up by 1 point in that game because it was I believe 12-10. I think it was. It was either it was I'm trying to remember. I think it was 12-10 in favor of Philadelphia. All they had to do was kick a field goal, and then they probably could have easily won that game. But no, they decided to go for it on a fourth and a long. I think it was I can't remember what it was. It was a 4th and 2. They do that, and then all of a sudden Philadelphia just takes over for the rest of the quarter. I mean, Philadelphia won that game pretty convincingly at the end, and they're doing it without Saquon Barkley, which is kind of a shocker. I mean, the Eagles defense really is coming up big. They have Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, who are really coming into their own, and they're really helping to keep this Eagles team afloat and keeping them at the top of their game right now. And they're playing pretty well right now, so that's why I have them at number 3. Number 2, the Buffalo Bills. Good job, Buffalo. You welcomed Kansas City into your home, and you did not fold to them. You actually found a way to beat them pretty convincingly and finally woke them up, realizing that, you know, hey, the Chiefs are good, but you're not as good as you were the last couple of seasons. And Buffalo welcomed you back into the reality. And Josh friggin' Allen. I mean, who would have guessed that without Stephon Diggs, the Bills actually turned out to be one of the better football teams in the league right now. So they get the bye week this week to get ready for the stretch run coming up in December. They're playing pretty good right now. Let's see if that continues into the postseason, or if they do what they do with the last couple seasons and kind of choke it away when it's all said and done. But of course, the number 1 team on this list, not surprisingly, is the Detroit Lions, who once again put a clinic on their opponents. I mean, 52 to 9. It was either 52 to 9 or 52 to 6. 52 to 6. I'm sorry, Jacksonville Jaguars. I was giving you a little too much credit, but to have the Lions play as good as they are right now, they really are the best team in football right now, and they're trying to prove that last year was not a fluke. They deserve to be in the Super Bowl, and right now they are more than proving that they indeed deserve to be in the Super Bowl. But the question is, will they get there this year? Right now, they're looking pretty good, and they're looking like they're game and ready to go. But we'll wait to see what happens. But man, the Lions this could finally be the year that breaks the mold. Like, they finally get past that long hump that they've been trying to get past. And I really can't wait to see what they do next, because right now they're playing the best football right now in the NFL, and it's not even close, man. So yeah, the Detroit Lions once again at the top of my NFL power rankings. Now, with all of that said, let's go ahead and get into my NFL predictions for Week 12. So over the last 2 weeks since I did this, didn't do bad, but didn't do great either. Week 10, I was 9-14, about 64% overall. 8-14 last week. Again, not the worst, but certainly could have been a whole lot better. And yeah. So what will Week 12 give us? Well, let's start off with the Thursday Night Football matchup, and it works out in my favor because we get the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns, which means that by the time the Sunday games kick off, I'll be extremely happy to watch the games on Sunday, or I will be extremely bitter because of what happens in the game on Thursday. Because as you know, when it comes to the Steelers and Browns on Thursday night, it is usually very, very bad for the team that is the away team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, because for some reason, the Cleveland Browns just turn into the Monstars from Space Jam whenever they play the Steelers on Thursday Night Football. I don't know what it is. This could be the worst Cleveland Browns team in each season, and yet they will find a way to beat the Steelers, and it won't even be close. And it's just like, yeah, so you can tell that I'm very, very nervous about this game this week, even though, the Browns are 2-8. I mean, Deshaun Watson isn't playing anymore. So what do you got to worry about? The Steelers are playing great right now. Yeah, they are. But that's the problem. The Cleveland Browns don't have Deshaun Watson, and Deshaun Watson was the reason why they were 2-8 to begin with. And yeah, Jameis Winston is only slightly better right now than Deshaun Watson, but at the same time, that should not be a sign of relief because, as I said before, the Browns just turned into professionals when they play the Steelers on Thursday Night Football in Cleveland. I just don't understand why it is. The Steelers have always had a hard time playing in Cleveland, especially in the last couple of years. Even when Ben Roethlisberger was playing, the last couple of years have been really not that great for the Steelers. And they've lost games they should have easily won. And yeah, this game has me very, very worried. A lot of people are predicting the Steelers are going to win this one. It's not even going to be close. But yeah, clearly you have not been following this Thursday Night Football history with the Steelers when they play a divisional game. Mike Tomlin has never won a divisional road game on a Thursday Night Football. Never. He's 0-7, and if I remember right, I think Alan Saunders on Twitter actually put an article out here telling us what exactly the record is. And yeah, it was like 0-7, an 0-7 record on Thursday Night Football. Found it right here. Alan Saunders, by the way, is the person who is the Steelers writer for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And it says right here, the Steelers have never won a road divisional Thursday Night Football game. They're 0-7 all-time and 0-5 under Mike Tomlin. And Mike Tomlin is 2-8 on the road on Thursday Night Football. So that's one indication of why I'm very worried about this game coming up. But not only that, but it's going to be a very windy game with lake effect snow predicted to happen during the game. So yeah, that's another thing you got to worry about if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. But then again, it's AFC North football. That's what you kind of have to expect. The good news is for the Steelers is that, well, there's going to be some significant injuries on the Cleveland Browns front. The starting, the line for the Cleveland Browns, the offensive line, is completely battered. I mean, their starting left tackle is out for this game. And Russell Wilson supposedly does very well on Thursday Night Football. He did it very well against Seattle. He did it very well when he is in the few games that he played for Denver, if I remember correctly. I'm thinking maybe Sunday night. I'm thinking maybe the Sunday night games. Yeah, I'm thinking of something else because I'm reading the article here on the Steelers website, and it says Russell Wilson possesses a career record of 9-4 on Thursday night games, including a 4-2 record on the road against divisional foes. This is, of course, back in his time with the Seattle Seahawks. So, I mean, there's some optimism overall, but I know exactly what to expect in games like this in particular. Like games like this, I just have an idea of what's going to happen here. Everyone's predicting the Steelers to win this one. I just don't. I still feel like the Cleveland Browns are going to find a way to win this game. I don't know how they're going to do it. Even as battered and banged up as they are, like, I would not be shocked if the Browns found a way to win this game. So I'm going to take the Browns to win this one. I think it's going to be a very ugly game overall. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. It could be just like the Ravens game last week where the Steelers will have to depend on field goals to try to win the game in general here. But then again, who knows? But I am going to pick the Cleveland Browns to barely eke out a win in this one. So give me the Browns to go to 3-8 and the Steelers to drop to 8-3. And yeah, this is one where I feel like, yeah, like I said, the history does not work out in the Steelers' favor, but who knows? Maybe as Marty McFly said to Principal Strickland in Back to the Future, history is going to change. Maybe it will. Who knows? But I am going to take the Browns to win this one. Like I said, it should be a close game. Give me the Browns to go to 3-8, Steelers to drop to 8-3. Moving on to the Sunday games, we have the Kansas City Chiefs going to Carolina to play the Carolina Panthers. As I mentioned, the Kansas City Chiefs lost their first game of the season last week to the Buffalo Bills. And they could be in a situation that we've seen so many times with teams that are undefeated for a good chunk of the season. We saw it last year with Philadelphia. We saw it a couple years ago with Arizona. The Pittsburgh Steelers had a year where it was like that. The New England Patriots had it the last year Tom Brady was with the team. They start off strong, and then the last few weeks of the season, the injuries start to pile up, the fatigue starts to pile up, and we might be seeing that with the Kansas City Chiefs, and we could see it with a team that nobody really ever saw coming. The Carolina Panthers. You notice that I haven't talked about how bad they have been over the last couple of weeks, but that's because the last couple they've won. They're actually on a 2-game winning streak right now. They've won more games this season than they did last year with Bryce Young under center. is that Bryce Young has been the quarterback for the 2 wins that they've had. I mean, they beat a really good Atlanta Falcons team, and they barely got out of the game against the Giants with that game-winning field goal at the end. But nevertheless, they are on a 2-game winning streak right now. And how crazy would it be if the Carolina Panthers welcomed the Kansas City Chiefs in and somehow found a way to win the game? It will probably not happen, but you know what? Just for the hell of it, I think that might happen. I mean, like I said, I'm going with the idea that the Chiefs are just like the other teams that have been undefeated in years past. They just are going to have that fatigue start to take its toll. And like I said, I've said this time and time again, the Kansas City Chiefs are not the same Kansas City Chiefs that they have been over the last couple of years that have won those Super Bowls. Like, they've struggled to keep those wins intact. I mean, yeah, they're 9-0, but none of those wins were very convincing. Like, they were wins that they were close calls all the way through. They had to get help. Of course, from the refs, of course, maybe. But yeah, I mean, this should be a game where the Chiefs should easily win. But I would be shocked at all if Carolina somehow found a way to win the game. I think they have a momentum going on right now, and I think it would give Bryce Young a big spark if his team could find a way to win this game. So I'm going to be crazy on this one. I'm going to say the Carolina Panthers will win this one. It will be close, but I think Carolina finds a way to eke a win out of this one. So yeah, give me the Panthers to go to 4-7. Give me the Chiefs to go to 9-2. Let's have the chaos happen here. Come on. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next game I have here, and that is the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Chicago Bears. Oh, Chicago, you were that close to winning against the Green Bay Packers, and the field goal got blocked, and the Bears put up a really good offensive performance. Caleb Williams actually did get better once they finally got rid of the cancer that was Luke Getsy. Or Shane Waldron, excuse me. Luke Getsy is the one who got fired from the Raiders, but Shane Waldron was also a cancer too, so yeah, he had to go, But yeah, they had a chance to win the game. I mean, they could have easily beat the Packers, and of course that blocked field goal kind of changed everything around. And the Minnesota Vikings, what more can you say about them? They're playing really good football right now. They are at 8-2 as we speak right now, but as I take a sip of my drink right there. But the Bears have shown life. I mean, they're not going to be playoff contenders. I wouldn't think so, but they're definitely moving in a much better direction than they were in the last couple of seasons when Justin Fields was there. Not because Justin Fields was bad or anything, just the play calling was bad in general. And Thomas Brown's game plan last week shows that there is life for the Bears' offense in general. And I think we're going to see that this week in this matchup here. I would not be surprised if we have another upset game in this one where the Bears somehow eke out a win against Minnesota. It happened last year. I mean, Minnesota was playing pretty good and was looking like to be playoff contenders, and the Bears were sitting there just waiting for the number 1 draft pick, and then look what they did. Look what they did last year in prime time. I mean, they were looking pretty good, even though they had nothing really to play for at that point. But I think it's going to happen here. I think Caleb Williams has his big breakout game with this one right here. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Bears to win this one. Give me the Bears to go to 5-6. Give me the Minnesota Vikings to drop to 8-3. So next up we have the Tennessee Titans versus the Houston Texans. Tennessee, yeah, they exist. They have no idea what their future is going to be. And if you want to listen to some to people online, they could be in line for Aaron Rodgers because he bought land in Nashville. And honestly, I think it's a perfect situation because, you know, you've got crap going to crap. I mean, the Tennessee Titans aren't that great. Aaron Rodgers isn't great right now. It's a match made in heaven or a match made in hell if you live in Tennessee. But but before even that happens, the Tennessee Titans of this year really are not that great. Will Levis is really struggling. Even with Mason Rudolph under center, they've looked better, but not by that much. And they got blown out pretty badly by the Minnesota Vikings last week. But then again, they're playing the Houston Texans, who have really fallen off a cliff in the last couple of weeks. I mean, before Halloween, they were looking like, I had them as my dream Super Bowl contenders, and they were looking like they were going to be a team that was easily going to be up there with the Bills and the Chiefs and the Steelers as playoff contenders. And then they lose to the Jets. They get embarrassed by the Lions at home. They finally get a break this week this past week against the Dallas Cowboys, which, I mean, yeah, I picked them to win that game, but I picked the Cowboys to win that game because it just felt like a game where the Cowboys were, not, even though they're not that great, they're going to find a way to win that game. They almost did until the fourth quarter happened, and then the football gods really showed how much they hate the Cowboys. And the Texans got their get-back game, and this is another get-back game for them. And this is a team that they should easily beat. They should hold on to this lead in the AFC South, which is slowly but surely turning into the tank division for this year, because the NFC South isn't as bad as it used to be. At least not yet. At least not right now. It isn't. But who knows what happens over the next 6 weeks? But yeah, I think the Texans should easily win this game, no question about it. Give me the Texans to go to 8-4, and the Titans to drop once again to 2-9. Speaking of the Lions, they are going into Indianapolis to play the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts, they're definitely something this year. A team that really is struggling to figure out what direction they want to go with. They want to go one week they want to stick with Joe Flacco. The other week they want to stick with Anthony Richardson, and you can't really get a grasp of what the Colts are trying to be right now. Like last week, yeah, they beat the New York Jets. They came back in the final seconds to win it, but they weren't. But even then, they weren't the best overall. But Anthony Richardson did show promise overall, and you show a little bit of promise. It gives you a little bit of hope that this is going to be a sign going forward in the future that this is what the Colts are going to be at this point. I don't think they're going to be a playoff contender by any means necessary, but they're definitely stepping in the right direction overall. The Lions really are stepping in the right direction. I talked about them as the best team in football, and they probably should go into Indianapolis and have a ball with this one here. No question about it. I'm going to pick the Detroit Lions to win this one. Give me the Lions to go to 10-1, and the Colts to drop to 5-7. And I'm also saying this because, let's be honest, the Lions play on Thanksgiving, and they're playing the Bears, which means that, yeah, the Lions are probably going to lose this game, mostly because they've lost the last several Thanksgiving Day games. I can't even remember the last one they actually won. I think it was 2007, if I'm not mistaken. I think I said 2007. I meant to say 2017, but no, 2016 was the last time they won on Thanksgiving. Maybe the time is now for them, but yeah, like I said, it's going to be a game where it's going to be a game. This game in particular, I think the Lions will easily win. Next week against the Bears on Thanksgiving, to be determined. But with that said, on to the next game we have here, and that is the New England Patriots versus the Miami Dolphins. Last time these two teams met, the Dolphins somehow found a way to win without Tua Tagovailoa. But now Tua is back, and the Dolphins have been on a roll the last couple of weeks. I mean, they beat the Los Angeles Rams on Monday night a couple weeks ago, and then last week they beat the Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, the Raiders are not that hard to beat when you really look at them. But the New England Patriots, the only thing they have really going for the Patriots right now is Drake May, who has really been playing pretty good football, but unfortunately he just doesn't have a good team around him right now. But he clearly has a lot of hope going into the future, and hopefully that next year they can build around him and this team could go back to being what they used to be, which, and again, now that I think about it, probably should not be the case. But, I mean, the future is looking bright for Drake May overall, but Miami is still hanging on to hope that they can find a way to sneak into the playoffs. I mean, it's going to take a lot to happen, but if they keep on this winning streak here, they should be pretty good set here. They're sitting now at 4-6. I think they can go into Miami. I think they can host the Patriots and win this one easily. So I'm going to take them to win this one. Give me the Dolphins to go to 5-6 and the Patriots to drop to 3-9. And next up we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is going to the New York Giants. The Giants are not that great, and they've also had a pretty bad week overall. They benched Daniel Jones in favor of Tommy DeVito. Not Drew Lock, who came with the team this season. No, they're going with Tommy DeVito. They're going with hopefully to create the meme quarterback for this year. Because, a couple years ago we had Gardner Minshew. Last year we had Will Levis, and last year was also Tommy DeVito. Now he's back to hopefully turn the season around. And I would probably say that they're not going to do it. But then again, this is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the Buccaneers, who started off so strongly, and they're trying their best to hold it together. They're just, it's hard for Baker Mayfield to really get anything going overall when the defense is struggling badly. And yeah, Buccaneers can put up a lot of points overall, but the Giants have a pretty good weapon in Tyrone Tracy, and they're slowly but surely building something. But it's building something here, but it's a struggle for them because, of course, this is the first year without Saquon Barkley, And, that's a big piece of their offense that's not there anymore, who's now playing for the opposing team, the opposing divisional team in the Eagles. But I actually do think the Giants find a way to eke a win out of this one. It's going to be an ugly game, I think, overall. But I just have this crazy feeling that this is the game where the Buccaneers should win it, but maybe the Giants find a way to beat them. Maybe Tommy DeVito is the reason why they win this game. Maybe there's a future there for him. Or maybe they're just waiting until the season is over so they can get the number 1 overall pick. But we'll wait to see what happens on that front. But I'm going to go and be crazy again. I'm going to take the Giants to win this one. I think it'll be an ugly game. I think it'll be a close game. I think the Giants should win this one. So I'm going to take the Giants to go 3-8. Buccaneers to drop to 4-7. As we move on to the late afternoon games, we've got the Dallas Cowboys traveling to Washington to take on the Commanders. The Commanders, 2 really bad weeks overall. I mean, they were close games, especially the Steeler game, but then they played the Eagles on that Thursday night, and like I said before, they really blew that game. They had a chance to take the lead, and then Philadelphia just completely dismantled them for the rest of the fourth quarter. So yeah, they've been struggling mightily, but I think they get their bounce back game this week, especially against a team like the Cowboys, who are so bad right now that even their own stadium is crumbling before them. I mean, everything is pointing to this team just completely just bowing out for the rest of the season. These primetime games coming up here for the Cowboys are probably going to get delayed. They're probably going to get flexed out, except for the Bengals and Cowboys game, which the only reason that game will be watchable is because of the Simpsons thing on Disney+. So I'll be definitely checking that out on that Monday night. But then you got to watch the Cowboys and the Giants on Thanksgiving, which will be a brutal mess overall. So this Thanksgiving's not looking so good for the games that we're used to seeing from Dallas and Detroit. Miami and Green Bay could be good, though. But in terms of this game overall, no real surprise here. I'm going with the Commanders. They're just a better football team, and this needs to be a big bounce-back game for them, especially after the last 2 games. I'm going to take them to go 8-4, Cowboys dropping to 3-8. Which brings us to the next matchup we have here, another divisional showdown, this time between the Denver Broncos and the Las Vegas Raiders. In Denver, I should say. Is it in Denver? No, it's in Vegas. I'm sorry. They played Denver earlier. They played in Denver earlier in the year. And, hey, the Denver Broncos, man, dismantling the Atlanta Falcons, which was pretty impressive. I mean, a 38-6 win against a team like the Atlanta Falcons, who's supposed to be really good this year. I gotta give you proper credits. That was actually really, really impressive what you were able to do. And they're playing a Raiders team that is just pretty much struggling. Pretty much just wants to get to the end of the season so they can think about which quarterback they're going to select. I don't think it's time for Antonio Pierce to be fired just yet because they really didn't do anything in particular this year to really change the team around. I don't know what the hell they were expecting when they got rid of Josh Jacobs and he didn't really have a quarterback. You had a choice between Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell. I don't think it's time for Antonio Pierce to go just yet, but, of course, the Raiders are really not that good right now. Their defense is struggling badly. The offense has been pretty bad. This should be an easy win for the Denver Broncos. I mean, this really should be an easy win. I'm going to take them to go 7-5. I'm going to take the Raiders to drop to 2-9. Not really that much of a surprise on that one. Then we get to probably two of the more exciting games happening in the 4 o'clock window. The Green Bay Packers are hosting the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco lost to Seattle last week in a stunning win for the Seattle Seahawks, who haven't won against the Niners since Russell Wilson was there. And, hey, more power to them. But we'll talk about Seattle in just a little bit here. But, yeah, the 49ers have been struggling pretty badly. And, they have been... They're not completely out of it just yet because that division is so close together with all 4 of the teams so close in terms of the records that they have. But they're going into Green Bay, and the Packers barely got out of Chicago with that win last week. They've been okay they've been pretty good for all season long. They have shown flaws though, and I think that's going to show in this particular game. Which I think the 49ers, for them, this is an important game for them to have, and I think the 49ers need to win this game to keep any hope of getting back into the playoffs on the line because they are struggling with injuries all around. Kind of like what happened in 2020, except unlike 2020, they still have a chance to get back to the playoffs again. So I feel like this is a must-win game for the 49ers. I'm going to take them to win this one. I'm going to give them the 6-5 record. The Packers are dropping to 7-4. It's going to be a very close game. I would not be shocked at all if Green Bay finds a way to win this game in particular, but I think the 49ers know this is a must-win game for them. If they're going to have any hope of getting back to the Super Bowl at this point, like, they got to have this game. They got to have it. Which brings us to the last of the 4 o'clock window games, and that is the Arizona Cardinals going to Seattle to face the Seahawks. Cardinals had the bye week last week. They currently lead the division. They are on a roll right now. They are on a 3-game winning streak. They're that sneaky good team that I said they were going to be at the beginning of the season. They didn't get a win against Buffalo, but they played pretty well against them, and they've shown in the last couple of weeks how good they could really be. I mean, they have looked pretty solid overall, and they're heading into Seattle, who's getting a lot of good vibes coming off of that win against the 49ers in particular. And in this game here, it really could go one way or the other. I think Seattle has the home field advantage, but I'm going to take the Arizona Cardinals to win this one. I think they're on a hot streak as well. I think they know that they can go into a place like Seattle, just like they did a couple weeks ago against the 49ers. I think they can go in there and play as well as the home team does. And, Kyler Murray's playing very well. James Conner's been very good on the running game. Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride. They've got a good offense there, and I think the defense is growing as the weeks go on. If the Arizona Cardinals right now are playing the best football in that division right now, in that NFC West division right now, and I think they should have enough there to get a win in this one. I'm going to take them to win this one. Give me the Cardinals to go to 7-4, and the Seahawks to drop to 5-6. Which now brings us to the Sunday Night Football matchup this week, and it's a matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Los Angeles Rams. Of course, 7 years ago, these two teams played to have the number 1 seed in the NFC, and the Eagles won that game convincingly, but it was also the end of the Carson Wentz era. It's essentially the beginning of the end of the Carson Wentz era in Philadelphia, because he was never really the same after that. But the Eagles, like I said, have been playing pretty good. The Rams have gotten better over the last couple weeks. They've gotten guys back. Cooper Kupp's back in the lineup. Puka Nacua is back in the lineup. They're getting a lot of help from their running backs. The defense is coming together. Jared Verse is turning out to be a nice rookie selection to replace Aaron Donald. And this should be a very interesting game in particular. You've got a red-hot team in the Philadelphia Eagles coming to town, but you also have a team like the Rams who have slowly but surely started to get back on track. And I'm going to actually take the home team on this one here. I think it's going to be a very good game overall, but the Rams right now, I think they have goodwill going in there. They're getting everybody back at the right time. They could be a team that could easily have a upset potential in this one. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Rams in this one. I think they have a better chance in this one over the Philadelphia Eagles. I think I think the defense for the Rams will find a way to stop Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley from getting going. I'm going to take the Rams in this one. Give me them to go to 6-5, and then the Philadelphia Eagles to drop to 8-3. And with that said, that brings us into the last game of the week, and that is back in Los Angeles, the Monday Night Football matchup, the Harborough Bowl, between the Baltimore Ravens and the Los Angeles Chargers. The Ravens coming off of that big loss to the Steelers on Sunday last week, and a lot of problems that we kind of figured coming into that game. The defense was struggling pretty badly. The offense was not clicking in that game, especially considering that Derrick Henry wasn't there for critical plays. Like, seriously, how the hell do you not have him in there on the 2-point conversion? And then we talked about the Los Angeles Chargers. They almost let a game go on them against Cincinnati, but they found a way to win that game. And now we got the game that everyone's been circling on the calendar. Jim Harbaugh going up against John Harbaugh. And, it's one of those games where it could be a very fun matchup overall to see these two brothers going at it. Because, of course, the last time they did this, it was in the Super Bowl when Jim was the coach of the 49ers. And it was a fun game overall. But Ravens kind of need this one badly. The Chargers... the Chargers are good right now, but I don't think they're ready to compete for the playoffs overall. I mean, they'll probably make the playoffs as a wild card team, but they got to prove they can beat teams like Kansas City. I mean, that's a team they've been struggling to play well against overall. The Ravens, got to get that defense going quickly. I mean, the defense has been struggling badly for the Ravens all season long. The offense can be as good as they want to, but if the defense can't keep the opposing offense from scoring touchdowns and field goals and all that type of stuff, I mean, it'll get pretty bad pretty quickly if the Ravens can't get their defense together overall. It's a game that should be fun on all accounts, but I am going to go ahead and take the Baltimore Ravens to win this one. I feel like this is a game they desperately need to keep up with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, yeah, it should be a fun game overall. I'm going to go ahead and take the Ravens, though, to win this one. Give me the Ravens to go to 8-4 and the Chargers to drop to 7-4. So let's go ahead and recap my predictions for this week. I have the Cleveland Browns over the Pittsburgh Steelers, Panthers over the Chiefs, Chicago over Minnesota, Houston over Tennessee, Detroit over the Indianapolis Colts, the Dolphins over the Patriots, the Giants over the Buccaneers, the Commanders over the Cowboys, the Broncos over the Raiders, the 49ers over the Packers, the Cardinals over the Seahawks, the Rams over the Eagles, and the Ravens over the Chargers. Some surprise picks in there that you might see in there, but I just feel like those are things that could possibly happen, especially that Panthers-Chiefs game. I feel like that's a game where the Panthers somehow find a way to win that one. It's crazy to think that, but I feel like that's what's going to happen. But should be a fun week overall to check some of these games out. But if you want to see what I had to say about a couple weeks ago, check out the video here. Check out some of the other videos I've done. And thank you guys so much for watching and listening here. As you can tell, I'm still a little bit under the weather, but I am getting better as the videos go on. So hopefully by the time next week comes around, I'll be back to sounding like my normal self here. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. So until then, take care.